Some of Britain's biggest business groups are urging Boris Johnson to abandon his policy of threatening to walk away from the European Union without a trade deal, warning that it would unleash economic chaos costing billions of pounds. Prime Minister Johnson this week said the United Kingdom would pursue a relationship with the EU like Australia's if Brussels refused to agree to its demands by the end of 2020. However, Australia does not have a free trade deal with the EU, and does relatively little trade with the bloc, compared to the UK. The trade Australia does do with Brussels is largely on World Trade Organization terms. Figures from several key industries this week told Business Insider that trading with the EU without a free trade agreement, as laid out by Johnson this week, would cause severe damage to businesses nationwide. Dominic Gowdy, the Food and Drink Federation's head of international trade, said calling it an Australia approach is fairly meaningless, as such an arrangement would have very little of substance that would do anything to help food and drink businesses. Gowdy said, "We know that reverting to most favored nation tariffs would be disastrous for food and drink. We export something like £13 billion each year to the EU, and reverting to the most favored nation tariffs would destroy a very large share of those exports. It's a bad deal for us, and it's a bad deal for our industry in Europe." Von Wessenhoel said imitating Australia's trading relationship with the EU would impose tariffs on swathes of Britain's agricultural exports to EU countries, like lamb, wheat, and barley. Any kind of tariff barriers, which don't exist at the moment, is going to have an impact. And of course, additional frictions that arise with not having a deal, he told Business Insider. The Australians are trying to do a deal with the EU for the very reason that they are not happy with the arrangements they have. We the NFU would be pretty unhappy with that outcome. British Business calls on the government to provide clarity. She told Business Insider that the logistics sector, which transports goods across the border, urgently needed specific details from the UK government on what to expect in January 2021, so it could begin preparing as soon as possible. "We need the government to spell it out and say in no uncertain words yes this is going to continue, or no this isn't going to continue," Bastian said, using the example of questions marks over how and where agricultural goods crossing the border will be checked in 11 months' time. "Where are the border inspection posts? There are none at Eurotunnel. Even where are some at other parts, do they have the capacity to deal with the increased volume? Are we going to provide training and support? How are going to help the industry get there?" she said. "It's all very well and good saying, 'Are you ready? Are you ready?' as they the UK government constantly do, but we need absolute clarity at an operational level and we need concrete measures." The government this week stepped up planning for life outside of the EU, announcing a month-long consultation for businesses to submit their views on what the UK should prioritize in trade talks with Brussels and other countries. The announcement was welcomed by business leaders, who are keen to have as much say in the government's trading objectives as possible. The UK is set to begin negotiating with the EU and countries like the US in the next few weeks. However, the Food and Drink Federation's Dominic Gowdy is concerned that changes to how the UK food and drink industry trades will not be confirmed until later this year, leaving companies just weeks, or even days, to adapt. Food and drink is ultimately the last thing which was agreed in every trade agreement I've worked on or looked at over the 10 or 11 years I've been working in the industry, he said. And that means we could end up in a situation where at the end of December, we only find out then the things which need to change and will have to be implemented immediately. Thought it's essential that we don't go into this thinking any changes have to take place on January 1st. We need to be flexible and the EU needs to be equally flexible to allow time for businesses to implement these changes.